I don't really have the words to explain it, but I feel as though I'm continuing certain habits in action and in thinking, certain habitual thoughts, that I'm clinging to these because I believe it's me. I believe it's my identity. That I've always been that way. And that it's not something I have control over. And when things get overwhelming to my nervous system, and I get this spike, this jolt to my system, because something scary, annoying, sad, or just out of normal happens, and it like jolts my body, like when somebody jumps out from, they're waiting to scare you and they jump out and like jolts your body, but then you see, oh, it's just a person that I know fucking with me, and it kind of goes away, and you're just kind of excited about it or laughing, or maybe you like punch them, whatever. But this other thing where it's internal, working its way out, like our response to the world, it's not just lifted like it would be if we noticed it's just our friend trying to scare us, and it like revs up. You might imagine if you've ever had your oil changed in one of those like easy, quick oil change places. You drive in, they change your oil, and then they have you start your car, and they check your lights and your windshield wipers, and they tell you to rev the car up and hold it there. We can imagine, in our body, something happening and revving our body up. And some people might know exactly what I'm talking about, but not experience it. And then other people might hear this and they're like, yeah, this happens all the time. Like every day my body's revved to 100 and it doesn't come down. And my perception of this actually has just become more clear this year in meeting Lisa Bond and her work with DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, and her understanding, or the understanding behind DBT, that some people just rev much higher or much more often, or just hold that rev longer than other people. So this conversation, for some people, it's like, it seems ridiculous to even talk about it because it doesn't really affect them. And then there are people like myself, or maybe you, who experience this to a really high degree. So maybe you have a week or more where you're really doing well, but then when it hits and it revs, it just stays in your system. And what happens is, what I think happens, or at least I think I noticed this with myself, is that when we rev up like that, we don't have a lot of wherewithal to make calculated decisions in our life. And if we can't calm ourselves from that place, then our body goes into those habitual patterns, those things that we identify as, I'm just the kind of person who goes and eats all the time when he's bored, or when he's nervous, or when he's afraid. I'm just the person who yells, we can't, or at least it's much harder to live from a conscious place if we are continually getting wrapped up in this jolt in our nervous system. So that's the experiment now. How conscious can we be in our decision making? How detached can we be from the world, right? If we could detach from the world, like if what was happening in the world had nothing to do with us, if we made it mean nothing about us, we wouldn't rev up like we do. And so how do we detach from the world in order to live from a place of conscious decision making. And if we don't find ways to do this, then we go right back into autopilot, where it's safe, what we've always known, because we're hiding from wolves. Like, that's what it would feel like in your body if there were wolves surrounding you and you were hiding from them. Your body would have this enormous jolt of energy straight into your extremities so that you could run or fight. So it's no wonder that you're grabbing, for the remote control. It's no wonder that you're grabbing for the refrigerator. It's no wonder that you're vocalizing in anger, because your body is getting you prepared to scream, shout, and fight and do whatever you have to do to save your life. And right now in the world, practically, and the practicality of needing to save your life is on a much lower spectrum than it has been in our history as human beings. And so we have to recalibrate these systems. And one important feature of wanting to recalibrate this system is your desire to be more at peace versus your attachment to your identities. Okay, so is your attachment to who you are? I'm a person who always lives in fear. I'm a person who just has panic attacks. I live with anxiety. I'm depressed. I'm this and that. I overeat. I'm just that type of person. Are you attached to these identities, or are you more attached to the desire to live in a more peaceful manner? To not be strung out by different things that happen in the world, to not dissociate. Is your desire deeper to be at peace than it is to be this person that you've always claimed yourself to be? And if it is, and you can tell in your results, and it can change at any minute, but you can tell in your results if your desire is to continue being this person, and simply, it's honest. I'll say it this way, because a lot of us don't realize that we're identifying as these things and then continuing to perpetuate that cycle. So it's honest. But if you look at your language, you'll start to see it. I am blank. Look at how much you say about yourself, and look at the context of it. Okay? And imagine that you have always been a clean slate, and everything that you say from this moment forward is a depiction of the story that you're writing for yourself, these identities that you're making. And so you can see it in your language, and in your movement, in the world, in your thought pattern. You'll immediately start to notice it when you're in conversation with your girlfriends, or one of your dudes. You just kind of speak. You don't buffer yourself. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you go into the world and you act a bit more professional or different. But then when you're with your homeboys or your homegirls, right? You're just spewing off. You don't think about it. But in those moments, let that happen, and see what you're saying about yourself, how you identify yourself. And you'll start to see those habits that are being bred from your language. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this is because our desire has to shift to being more at peace, or being stronger, or being calmer, whatever your desire is. But your attachment to that desire has to be instigated into your mind in a way that it takes over when this other part of you starts to subside, that you can draw that desire to be more at peace into the world, into your being, right? So as that habitual person recedes, that tide of that habitual unconscious pattern, that autopilot that you live in recedes, you want to take advantage of it by inputting that desire to be more at peace further into your consciousness, into your mind. And sure, you might go back and forth. I go back and forth. when I'm shocked in my system because of some internal thing that I didn't know was happening or that has happened, and that I've been like suppressing in myself and not really paying attention to and acting like it wasn't having effect on me, it just like blows up in my face sometimes, and I'm like, holy shit, now I'm revving at like 5,000 RPMs. Okay, I've got to get myself away from that level of revving. I got to bring myself down. Breathing, breath work, running, journaling, swinging an axe at chopping wood. I have a baseball bat and a tire. There are many ways to move that energy out of your body, get the revving back down to, at least 1,000 RPMs, if less than that, if not less than that. Notice what's happening, and then reinsert this desire to be more at peace. Reinsert this desire to be different than this person that you've unconsciously been molded into through your life. And not giving up hope when it's challenging. Not giving up on yourself. Whether you place support systems in your life so you don't have a choice but to keep trying. You have people surrounding you that lift you up, or whether you insert activities into your life that bring more joy and peace into your being. But knowing that you will continue to shed these old autopilot narratives that keep popping into your mind because of the life you've had, the experiences you've had, the people you've interacted with, many of which you never really consciously chose. Most of which you probably never consciously chose. Deciding to get rid of those pieces, but not for the sake of getting rid of them, but for the sake of inputting something else. And really, it's less about getting rid of the other thing than it is to input the one thing that you want. So continually bringing forward the desire to be whatever it is that you want to be. I keep saying more at peace because I feel like we could all use that. More loving, more generous, more abundant, more clear, more discerning. This moment for me of inspiration is I'm simply recording because I need to say this to myself. This might make it to the podcast, I don't know. But what I do know is this is what I need to hear right now. Because it can be so easy to go from feeling like the world is right at the tip of your fingers to feeling like it's a waste of time and you're worthless and you're never actually going to have the thing that you've set out to have. And my biggest hope for you and for myself is that from that place, no matter how deep or dark it might feel, that there's a part of you that still hasn't given up. There's a part of me that still hasn't given up. And that I'll still continue to go towards that thing. But more importantly, I'll find a way to be at peace right now as I move towards it. Be more at peace when I'm in confrontation, but seeking a resolution. Being more at peace with having just enough money or not enough money, but still seeking to have more money and manage my money better. Being at peace with the weight that I currently am, and loving myself nonetheless, and still moving towards the desire that I have for optimum physical health. as soon as you can crack open that shell that we tend to put around ourselves when we go unconscious, when we're hopeless, when we don't know, when we're revving at 1,000 or 5,000 RPMs, as soon as we can just crack that shell and get the tiniest bit of light in there, you know it happens every time. It just grows, right? We get to the point, or at least I know I do, where I get to the point where I feel hopeless. And I'm so tight around that idea of I'm hopeless that I won't even let the smallest bit of hope in. But as soon as my physiology changes, as soon as I'm breathing deeper, as soon as I've stretched a little bit, as soon as I've, drank some water or eaten some really healthy food, as soon as my physiology changes, so does that shell, and it cracks open and the light starts to grow within me. And after every, downswing or any level of pain that I feel, I'm always bringing the deepest of myself, that next moment. So the pendulum swings all the way down to the negative side of things, and then boom, it swings back and it goes higher than it's ever been before. And I'm more clear on who I am than I've ever been before. And I'm better at serving than I've ever been before. My purpose, serving other people. So pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to the way you speak about who you are. Pay attention to the attachment you have to who you are and how much you think that it is me. It's who I am. And just measure that against your desire for something different. We all have different desires. And just measure it. And see if you can edge it up just a little bit. Your desire to be more prosperous, more at peace, more loving, more generous. See if you can just notch that up a little bit in your speech, in your thoughts, in your deliberate intention, in your gratitude. Even when this whole quarantine thing is over, we're still all in this together. So reach out to whomever you reach out to, or find somebody that you can put a little bit of faith in and cross that edge of vulnerability and work towards that life that you desire most. Work towards being the person that you want to be out there in the future, but work towards being that now. As always, take care of yourself, your family, your friends, your passions, your body. And keep feeding it that positive, high vibration, kick-ass Mosaic Life podcast. Peace.